Set this.
It's so moist.
Every time we're reminded of the great Artie Lang show.
Yeah, has
It's
he posted anything?
I don't know. I haven't really followed it, to be honest. Haven't checked.
Even Buschetti, you stopped listening to Buschetti?
No, well, Bichetti still posts Instagrams, but just not nearly as frequently.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. He's on Opening and Anthony here and there, so who knows?
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, this is not comedy hour, so welcome to Functional Meatheads. I'm Mark DeSalvo.
I'm serious for Elan Sanchez.
Yes, you are in a very serious mood today. Yeah.
All
you have a haircut. You look extra serious. What's up?
I'm all business all the time, bro. I don't mess around.
Your business Freud today?
Yeah. No, I don't know what's going on. I think I feel good. The weather's good.
Yeah. Well,
Been good.
that's good. I feel like nature, Mark, because I was up in nature in Maine and New Hampshire over the weekend, hiking and sitting on rocks next to the water. So, I'm definitely very neutral. What's that?
You hunt and kill anything like Joe Rogan?
No, but I went fishing though.
That's
Yeah.
you kill something.
Yeah, I didn't catch anything though. It sucked, but I learned how to gut a trout though. That was cool.
So somebody caught something?
Yeah, it was like this guy that was nearby. He was catching trout like crazy. We were like, "What the hell, man?" And he was showing us how to gut it.
Was it fresh?
What do you mean?
Like it tasted you when you ate it? Did you eat it or just?
Oh, we didn't eat it. No, no, no. And it was all his. It was all his. We didn't catch anything. That's how bad we were.
We need the food. Sushi.
Yeah, exactly. But it was fun. And you know what? I actually practiced because I had the opportunity. Because there's these great what would you call it? Rivers and waterfalls and all this granite and all this different stone that this water's running through. I practiced. I was telling my friends about grounding and telling them like this is the most natural way to do it. So like we took our shoes off, like sat there and just chilled on the rocks, you know. And
Wow.
and I have to say, I definitely felt like when we put our shoes back on and started walking again, I was like, oh, that felt great, you know.
Yeah.
So it was cool to actually do.
Just on the rocks or on grass?
We were on the rocks. We were on the rocks.
Nice.
And it was great. It was big, smooth rocks, beautiful, and
Plus the heat too and all that.
yeah. And then the sun was out. It was beautiful. You could hear the water crashing next to you. It was a lot of fun. It was a cool little experiment to try out grounding in nature, like not just on grass, you know.
What did you eat?
We ate a lot of eggs because there's a lot of people. Like, it's so crazy up there when you're driving on the main roads. You know, there's like a house, like maybe like 3 houses per mile. Almost all of them have chicken coops out in their front or side yard, and like every maybe third or fourth, they sell eggs. You know, they'll have like a sign on their mailbox that says "Fresh eggs here." So.
Right.
We bought a lot of eggs from people like that. We ate eggs, a lot of duck. People in Maine and for what I guess it's just duck. That's a thing.
Wow.
Really great duck. We went to this restaurant and we drove up to Portland one day to go to a roller derby, believe it or not. And we went to this restaurant after called Duck Fat, where they make everything in duck fat. They make duck fat butter, duck fat oil. It's pretty cool, and it was very good.
Did you get duck fat fries?
I did. They were amazing. And we had duck fat poutine. They made poutine.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not as into that.
You drove? You guys take a train or something?
We drove up there from where we were. We were in the middle of Maine, middle of nowhere, Sebago, Maine, and it was
How
cool.
long did you get there?
What's that?
How long did it take you to get there?
The bus ride from here to Boston was 4.5 hours, and then the drive from Boston to Maine was 2.5.
Damn, son.
Yeah. So that was the other thing I was gonna.
New York?
I'm sorry.
Everybody left from New York?
No, they all live in Boston.
Oh, okay.
I was the lone New Yorker, but the funny thing I was gonna say as it relates to us is that I did a lot of hiking, a lot of stuff that's really good for your body when I was up there, but all of that traveling, because what is that? Like almost 8 hours each way. And
Uh-huh.
when we were talking about last week or the week before about how like when it comes to your movement that matters, that like you can spend all this time doing the limber 11 and then you just kind of undo it because you're just tightening yourself up again. That's how I
Yeah.
felt. By the time I got up there, I was in desperate need of just walking. And we
Hmm.
walked, and then by the time I undid everything, I'm still feeling jacked up. I'm still foam rolling like crazy and whatnot just to like undo all that sitting. That was a lot of sitting on those car rides.
So like 6 hours each way, like 6 hours total.
More like 7
Hmm.
when you think about it.
That sucks.
Yeah, but well worth it though. Like it's very scenic. I mean, especially once you go from Boston to Maine, like everything in between there is like fun to look at, out the window. So it's it's not like it's the most boring of and
Yeah.
unstimulating of trips you can take.
Well, it's a different energy, but I'm wondering if you're driving and you're stuck. Yeah. Plus, it doesn't help that you work and you're sitting too, so it's double whammy.
Yeah, but at least the work I can counteract because I have a standing desk. I don't really sit around a lot. If I have to sit, it's never for more than an hour. And then if you start feeling funky, you can always stand up.
Wonder what the ratio is. Okay, so we talked about last time and said sitting 6 to 8 hours can undo a 1 to 2 hour workout. So basically, does that work in reverse? Meaning, okay, so you just sat for 8 hours, you have to work out for 1.5 hours, you know?
Yeah. Where did you get the one? Where did you get the figure from?
It was in one of the Bulletproof Radio podcasts. One of the people he had I was talking about a couple studies. The ratio is sitting for 6 to 8 hours and can undo 1 to 2 hours of working out.
Wow.
So a
Yeah.
lot. Is it reverse? Let's see. Did you need to work out for 2 hours, or did you just need to do stuff for 2 hours? And shortcut cheated. Like if you foam roll for an hour, does that help? I guess what's
Yeah.
really cool is what what the nervous system is what's adapting. Like a short front hip. Years of sitting, the nervous system just adapts to short front hip, short front hip. So I guess what we need to find is studies that tell you, okay, here's the science of fixing the short front hip. How many hours is it going to take to fix the short front hip?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it is interesting. I mean, I will say that I kind of split my efforts yesterday because yesterday, I got back late Sunday night. Yesterday, I just did all foam rolling, myofascial release on the back and the neck and all those zones up there and the T-spine. Feel great today, like no ill effects at all. And
We're traveling, I know that.
what's that?
Spine is huge, the tennis ball.
Yeah,
And the
and
teeth.
I brought the lacrosse ball with me.
Nice.
And today's all the leg foam rolling. I only got to do a little bit this morning, so after this podcast, I'm gonna be living on that foam roller.
Nice.
Yes, indeed. That's my project is showing you how a car ride can undo a very therapeutic weekend in nature.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably bounces out. You probably gained more, anyways, from the experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's an interesting project because it's always fascinating to hear the balance. You hear travel tales, and just imagine somebody who lives up in the sky. Somebody who does that for a living. They don't even know what's going on. We're not even talking radiation. We're not even talking um, hydration. We're not even talking the air quality, all that stuff. Because Paul Chek does a lot of stuff for his travels. Like if you listen to any of those Ask Paul Checks, he talks about a lot of the stuff that he does to maintain his immunity and how to not keep from going crazy. Like he puts a lot of time and effort into falling asleep before to get used to the time zone. And again, that's just like being able to zone into your body and see how you feel, from that, based on that. So
Right.
it's pretty good to study that type of stuff and research all that good body science.
Right. No, it's funny because when you hear Steve Maxwell talk about it too, he's someone who makes his living on the road. He doesn't even have an apartment or a home, and That's
You
what
know,
that's what he kept saying too on that Rogan interview and other things that you see him talk on is that, it's staying healthy while traveling, staying healthy while traveling. It's no
so crazy.
coincidence. No coincidence,
I want to talk to him about that because I want to know if he has like he said he only puts his stuff in a bag, right?
Um,
Like he said he doesn't.
yeah. He said he lives out of like a what, like a 65-liter bag or something like
Yeah.
that.
Like, damn, dude, gangster.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore. That type of minimalism is like, I don't know, for me it's kind of admirable. I'm like, wow, that's pretty
Well,
amazing.
there's a group of people we've talked about before that you should only own 100 things or 150 things. That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything.
we have talked about that. That's actually kind of been my spring project. Not intentionally spring cleaning, but every weekend I've been just getting rid of more, and it's amazing the crap you have piled up that you're just like, why do
You
we?
have 150 pairs of shoes, dude. I don't think you'd be able to get rid of that.
What's that?
You have 150 pairs of shoes. I don't think you'd be able to do that.
Nah, I don't have that many, but I am trying to. I'm getting rid of. I got rid of a lot. I'm trying to sell some others because some were gifts that were like never even worn, so that makes you feel especially wasteful,
I have,
And,
like clusters of things, like clusters of books, clusters of shoes. But like, I don't know. That would be interesting to take a real inventory, like of everything I have, and be like, you know what? What do I guarantee if you went through like a third, 3/4 of it, you'd probably get rid of like half. You'd be like, I don't really need this.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I would do one spring cleaning, and then if I didn't use something for 6 months or a year, I'd toss it automatically.
Right. That's
Like,
my friend. My friend always had a rule that if he made it through a whole season without wearing something, he would get rid of it. He was very good at keeping. He was very good at keeping a minimalist approach to the items he owned.
I think I do it now mostly because I don't really have my own apartment. I have a place, but it's not mine. So yeah, the only thing I really have a lot of is books. And even now, those I'm trying to get everything on a Kindle now because on my Kindle app, just because I have too many books, if I have something on my phone or my reader, I'll rather take that than than a hardcover book because books are heavy, especially our instructional like kettlebell book or a Randy Couture workout book. They're big tomes, and you don't want
Yeah,
that.
yeah. The type of books you and I read, they're not tiny. Yeah,
Yeah, I know, I hate that.
absolutely. That's
Uh,
big.
yeah, it's crazy.
So, do you have a project you'd like to share before we get into it?
Project. What's the project? Just for me on a personal level, playing around with programming, understanding programming more. I've been reading a lot of programming books, so that's more of the mental project I've been going on. But in terms of understanding, like the more about that my body is, I've been playing with my carbs, carbo loading, carbo unloading.
Mm-hmm.
I find like I've been doing the warrior diet helped me with reaching the end of my carb cycle, mixed in with, like I said last week, working out without eating breakfast, not on purpose, not by design, just for time reasons, like waking up and running to work or waking up and biking to work. So I purposely would not have breakfast just because I didn't have time. So I would say, okay, I'll eat when I get there, and I would notice that I could be fine. And then I would notice like an hour or two later after getting to work, I'm like, okay, I need carbs because my body wants it. I tapped it. Like if I bike to work, it's about a 4 to 5 mile bike ride. But I jam. Like I'm not messing around. I'm like, I only take a couple breaks. I'm spinning the wheels the whole time. So it's more like a bike sprint for me. I'm jamming on a heavy ass city bike. So
Yeah, and those things are fixed gear too, or single gear, right?
gears, but I put it on the hardest and I just jam as fast as I can. Like I like to spike my just tap my body like as fast as I can in the morning. It's actually pretty interesting. Good results too.
Cool.
Running as well, but now I like remember in the we talked about this in the metabolic typing book. He talks about like scooping in your starches and everything.
Yeah.
I kind of have like exactly my window. I have my carb window where I know like okay I need carbs because I know really what happened was the learning process went like okay I did my workout or I ran to work or I biked to work. I'm only gonna live off of fat and protein like it's hardcore. By like 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, I want a loaf of bread. Like I was failing miserably. I'm like, I want carbs, and then I would just overeat like sushi or something something dumb. So then I'm like, okay, I need to put a stopgap. So I would get there, get to work. I would have my egg and some bone broth to kind of satiate me for my first couple sessions. And then I know right around 10 o'clock, between 10 and 11:30, I need to preemptively carb load. So what I end up doing is either getting some white rice and seaweed at this one Japanese bakery with a little bit of salmon mixed in,
Hmm.
and I eat that, and I'm fine. I'm like, I don't have that massive craving, so then I can go back to the eggs and the bone broth for the rest of the day. So to me, that's the starch that I'm adding at the right time, so I'm not going overboard and killing myself for a loaf of bread or something crazy. So it's pretty fascinating to be able to play with that, because I can cut off the Dos Toros burrito by just having a little bit of carbs at the right time, right before I know my body's about to break.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a good thing to figure out. I think it's good for everyone to figure out something like that. And it sucks because you have to kind of experiment and sort of put yourself through some kind of weird anguish at times. But
And as a trainer, you have to be willing to tell your client, hey, we're going to play around with fasting, intermittent fasting, and ketosis. We're going to play around with this. And you're like, what? You know what I mean? So it's kind
right,
of
right.
like
Yeah, yeah.
we're going to play around, and you have to pay attention to when you want carbs. And me as like a professional, finger quotes, if I
What
was
a
missing the mark,
professional.
if I was missing the mark by a lot, then what's the average person going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
Yeah, I
such a
mean,
fine window that you're going to have to train them. Obviously, if they can do it and get it right, it's awesome. But no,
you're kind of going through what I went through a few months ago when I was sort of playing with the same thing, probably the better part of 5, 6 months ago, of trying to figure out what's the right kind of carb amount for me because I'm sort of somebody who sort of needs more carbs than you. Like I just seem to run on more and just do better with them. And I did a lot of experimentation myself, and it's the same thing. You're putting yourself through all this weird stuff, and trying to figure out what works. And I kind of came to two conclusions at the end of it. And one of them was more personal to me, and the other I think is kind of broad and you can apply to other people. Is the first one, the more personal one, is that I'm most effective in general when I front load it. So I don't. My body doesn't like carbs past a certain time, starchy carbs. So
when you
uh,
say effective, was it effective for overall health, muscle building, leaning out? Like, what were your goals?
this I'm talking about just well-being and health, like feeling of being able to sustain what I do. So not with the goal of muscle growth in mind, but even with that though, like this is what I was experimenting with because I was trying to gain weight from last August until into the winter, and it worked. I got about 5, 6 pounds out of it, and which is a lot, and uh, I did it using this sort of method of just, in the morning is when I got the most. That was when I pounded the potatoes the hardest. And then between breakfast and lunch, I didn't ever hesitate to reach for anything starchy or more carbohydrate based. By lunch was the kind of the last hurrah. Like I would have a sizable portion, but not nearly as big as breakfast. So in other words, breakfast is a lot of potatoes, a lot of sweet potatoes, that type of thing, and then lunch, maybe a little bit of potatoes, a little bit of rice. And for the rest of the day, that's it. The rest of them come from more fibrous sources for me, like apples and vegetables and
Yeah.
whatnot. And dinner is all vegetables and protein. No rice, no potatoes or anything. And in general, it just worked best for me because I just felt better. I slept. That was the biggest one that tipped me off to that this is healthy. I slept better. I started sleeping better because I think it has a lot to do with blood sugar regulation
I,
because I
that's
wasn't.
a must for every client. It's in the Paul checkbook. If you can get people to have a fatty, people that can't sleep well, give them a fatty dinner. See how they sleep, and that's a huge thing. So
Absolutely, and it was big for me to do that, and you know, and it really helped. Like it was a big thing that even when I was at my most active, I would argue now I'm even more active in some ways than I might have even been as a trainer now with the way I do jujitsu and train myself and whatnot.
Yeah.
But even now and even then, when I was trying to gain weight, if I put the weight gain protocol into those parameters, it still worked. That's basically how I did it. My largest meal was breakfast. My second largest was lunch. The last largest was dinner.
I want to
And
see you try what's his name said. The guy. What's that guy's name? The guy from the Rogan guy that we're just talking about him. Kettlebell guy, Steve Maxwell.
yeah,
I want you to try his thing. I want you to only have a carb meal, only have a protein meal, only have a fat meal. I want to see if you can do that.
yeah, I would try it. I mean, I'll
I've
have to
been,
I have to conceptualize how that would work.
I mean, I've been better at it. I've been doing just the fat and protein, and if I go have a carb, I try to just have a carb with if the most maybe like a little bit of protein in there, but I'm not equaling it out. I'm like, if this is this meal, this is what it is. I've been a little bit better about that. Um, and to be honest with you, I've been feeling pretty good lately with this whole new setup of like a warrior, intermittent fasting, working out in the morning on an empty stomach. And I'm not necessarily advocating that aspect of it, the working out, but I've have because my nutrition is pretty on lately. I
Mhm.
can do that safely. So it's not like I'm just waking up tomorrow. I'm just some regular person going, "Hey, I heard on a podcast to not eat and work out." I'm
Right,
not doing like I'm making sure I have enough fat stores. I'm making sure I have enough carb stores. I'm making sure I have
right,
everything in place safely, and I'm doing that. A little bit of hormesis by training my body to like work with what it has. Um, So I'm not like just waking up going, okay, I'm gonna try and then pass out. You know what I mean? Not in that condition. My water consumption is good. Like my sleep is good.
right.
Everything hit, so I'm able to get that leeway where I kind of work out and work out really hard sometimes. Um, so it's something that I mean, if you can fine tune your body to get to that point, not that we're perfect or anything, but if you can get to that point of body awareness, nutritional awareness, and health awareness, you'll give your body some slack to be able to try new things athletically, intellectually, um, just basic physically, nothing too crazy. But it opens up more doors than it closes. The doors that it really closes are maybe more social stuff where you can't like go pound some brews after work or smoke or anything along those lines. But again, if you're looking for human performance and you're not trying to hack like too much of the Asprey stuff, where you're like, okay, like one of the biggest things I always had a problem with him is that he sacrifices sleep for more work performance.
Right. Well, that's a matter of values that, that's something you and I don't value.
I
And
just don't think you could short shift sleep. I don't care even if you are working out.
I
You know,
agree. I
if you're,
totally agree.
it's just something just inherently doesn't make sense about. You're all about human performance, this, but I don't think you can sleep on this on the. I mean, even if you take away all other possible stressful factors, inflammation, blah blah blah, I think at the very least you're barely gonna be fine.
Right. I mean, I think that because, there's all types of DNA repair that have to happen even if you're not working out, there's just so much that I don't know, it's just so crazy to me to think
Yeah, the
that.
first 4 hours of sleep is mental repair, and the last four is physical repair, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. And think also for a second too of, say you only are sleeping 5 hours and you do that to maximize efficiency, that must mean that you probably aren't getting much decompression time in your day, which is equally important. Unless he's commented on that, I don't know.
I no, he does. He actually does. He does that heart math. So basically, you manage all your stress buckets. Remember the Paul Chek stress buckets: hormonal, mental, emotional. You manage all those stress buckets,
Right.
and then, so I guess he might be right. I mean, I would love to see the studies about, or the logic on, okay, if you get 5 hours of sleep, but let's say your body, the first 5 hours are mental repair, but let's say it doesn't need too much mental repair, or is the body smart enough to parse out like, hey, this dude doesn't really need any physical repair, so we're just going to give him mental repair, you know?
Right. Right.
Or can you learn to be that way? If it's possible, it's possible. Hey, kudos. I would love to see that, you know? And that's probably, I mean, I would love to see if that's what he's touting, you know?
Right. I agree. I agree. I'd like to see that.
And if it's true, then the body's awesome if you could do that.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was going to say too is the other takeaway I took, bringing it back full circle, is that your kind of carbohydrate and other macronutrient consumption is kind of hugely personal to
Oh, yeah.
where you're at. You know, that was the other thing, is that, you know, this works for me now, but I totally recognize that it might not work for me later. And
Well, yeah, people shift in and out of different phases.
right, right. You
And
know,
people put themselves in different phases. Like, I think yeah, there's a time in my life where I abused sugar, and because of that, I'm very sensitive to it now. So I pretty much mentally work better with a lot of fat and protein. And if I have too much, like if I get too much of the seaweed, too much of the rice, I just go over the edge. So I kind of know what my ranges are now. So it's kind of interesting to get to that point, and go from there. So yeah, you have to kind of play along and trust in your body, that your body knows the way, unless it's a little messed up from a lot of years of abuse. Your body can navigate you through. It's just a matter of like being mindful about and paying attention to it. So
right. It's true. Yeah, I think you know, it's interesting that you were talking about like you said, the awareness of not eating a ton before you're working out, but like you said, you're balancing. You balance out what you know of how much fat you took in maybe the night before or the day before. Like, in other words, you're not just kind of throwing caution to the wind, waking up and being like, all right, I'm gonna go to spinning class. You know, not gonna eat breakfast. I'm doing a fasted cardio. That's my favorite one that I hear.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
People are strange. I love seeing the people that go to the Soul Cycle class because it's right around the corner from my gym, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. I don't know, because nobody's monitoring how hard you go on that thing. You know, it's not like you're in charge of how fast you go and how hard the dial is.
Right.
So I don't know. I wonder if it's either the biggest scam in the world, because people go and they pretend like they're jamming hard, and they move the pedal, because you can fake turning the crank. You don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and if you're doing that, then you're just paying a lot to be in a class. If you're not really going to take it seriously, which I really think people aren't doing it that way, because if they take it 3 times a week, if they're rich enough to take it 3 times a week, there's no way you can do 3 interval workouts in 1 week if you're doing them properly, you know?
Right. Right.
I mean, unless you're a Jim Jones athlete or a CrossFitter, there's no way, you know?
Yeah, I don't, you know, the other thing too that's weird about it is, now that I'm riding a bike more, now that I have a bike,
Uh,
you have to do, and this kind of was a backfire on one of the reasons I got a bike, but that's another story, is that, you know, last night I went for a ride, and, you know, I was still kind of jacked up from
yeah, you're about to make my point about everybody in SoulCycle. But yeah,
Exactly. That's what I was getting at, is that, you know, it was such a beautiful night, and I just wanted to go out and take a little spin. It wasn't even about working out or draining myself. It was just like, go real slow. I just wanted to enjoy the park, you know? And when I got back, I was like, God damn, my body. I was like, that was the wrong thing to do. I would have been better off just walking. And like you just said, I know what you're going to say, that all these people, they've got lordosis, they've got forward heads and scapula issues and all this crap.
bad shoulders, bad hips, and they're just on a bike, and I'm like, oh, it's the worst. I have clients who stop training with me to go do SoulCycle twice a week. Money-wise,
Right.
they had shoulder issues, they had front of the hip issues, and I'm like, I mean, not in a negative way. I'm just like, okay, I'll be seeing you in about a year to fix all that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not being mean about it. I'm like, it's either going to be me, or it's going to be a chiropractor, or it's going to be somebody else. You know, that's just not worth it. But I mean, yours is different though. I don't blame you. You're outside getting fresh air, moving around. Like, that's different.
Right.
So if somebody really likes cycling and wants to do that, I'm fine. But within the confines of a room, I don't know. It's like very, we always have issues with this. But anyways, it's.
Yeah, we're just hearkening on
Yeah.
bullshit at this point.
I don't think you're doing anything bad. I mean, to me, that's why I like running so much. I'm moving around and getting stuff in there. Um, but yeah, it totally makes the point about that. And then they go get their hot double shot iced coffees afterwards and start drinking. It's like the worst I've ever seen.
I mean, the thing with me though, especially what kind of the difference though. I mean, I wasn't thinking I was doing anything bad. I was just saying that, if me in this pursuit of just trying to do something pure and fun recreationally, if that caused some like orthopedic discomfort, imagine if you're trying to do that as a workout and bust your ass and
Yeah.
indoors with music blaring at you. But anyway, we've made our point. So
Yeah. To tie it back into the food, we can go on the topic. So
let's do it.
very simple. I'm sitting here going, everybody pre-workout this, pre-workout that, pre-workout. I'm like,
yeah.
oh God. And we fight over this at the gym all the time. We're always arguing. What's this? What does it have? It doesn't amp me up enough. And I'm like, Christ, not enough caffeine. So
This sounds like a gym in Brooklyn, like the one I go to.
no, my thing is like, it's all these young guys, and they're like pre-workout, pre-workout, pre-workout.
I know.
And I'm thinking, I don't work out unless I feel like I'm more of a pulse check. Like, do I feel like working out? Is it going to do me more harm to work out than good?
Right.
I balance it out. But very rarely, and I work out like minimal 3 times a week with weights, 3 to 4 times a week with weights, or lifting, body weight, pull-ups, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's never a day where I go, I don't feel like working out today. I don't have those days.
Right.
And if I do, usually, let's say, like maybe twice a week, I'm like, I never say I'm not going to work. I don't feel like working out today. I'm not going to work out. Usually, I say if I do cut it down, I say I'm just going to do pull-ups, 40 pull-ups, 50 pull-ups.
Right.
But it's never like, oh, I have to go do this. Let me go get a cup of coffee. Let me go do that. Like basically, I see everybody trudge into the gym. Older guys, usually cup of coffee. Younger guys, pre-workout.
Right.
Or Red Bull, or Monster, that type of stuff. I never see anybody just casually come in. Girls, I guess women do that, but women, a lot of coffee as well. I never see anybody, iced coffee with women, that's what it is. But I never see anybody calmly come in, hit it consistently on a regular basis, It's a very interesting thing. So that got me thinking, I'm like, okay, what's in pre-workout? We've had this argument before. I'm like, okay, what's the top-selling pre-workout? So I went on bodybuilding.com, and they have
Before.
an awesome list that people I recommend. Bodybuilding.com has the top supplement sellers in each division, like pre-workout, post-workout, protein, whey, all that stuff.
Let's bring that up right now.
Yeah, so I looked up what's the best-selling pre-workout, and according to them, it's Cellucor C4 Extreme.
Yeah, I've heard of that stuff. Yep.
And the kids at work take it, so they're like, Cellular C4 Extreme.
I know. And then there's another one called Concrete. I'm like, I was like, motherfucker, you put something in your body called Concrete. That's what I remember. I saying that to someone one time with another trainer I worked with. I was like, you put that in your body.
Muscle Farm is like number 2, I think. So I'm like, ugh. But Chow Night's not too bad. But so I go, okay, let me look at, since I've taken apart some stuff before. A lot of people don't know that you can make your own pre-workout, post-workout. You can make anything that they have in the gym, anything that they have at GNC, anything that they have at Vitamin Shop. You can make it. Look on the back, then research what it does, and then just buy those components for yourself. Sometimes it's cheaper in the long run, and sometimes it's a little bit more expensive, but at least you don't get that other stuff that's like, I don't know what that is. I don't know, yellow number 5. I don't know, I don't know what that does to my body, all that stuff.
Or maybe you don't want like beta-alanine or something. So
yeah, or maybe you just want beta-alanine. You don't want the caffeine, So
Right.
it's kind of cool. Like I learned a lot just researching this topic. I was just like, okay, let me look at the top 4 ingredients in Cellucor that most people feel. And then I'm thinking, well, what kind of does food make you do that? Is there any foods that make you? So I looked up. The first one is beta-alanine, which we're all a little bit familiar with. Beta-alanine for me, the effect it had for me is that I just did not get tired. I could not get tired. I played soccer on it. I was just a beast. I couldn't get tired. I was running all over the place. I can't imagine if you lift it. I don't think I ever lifted on it, but I just was not able to get tired. And I looked it up, and it's an amino acid, a beta amino acid. And for me, it was basically didn't get me tired. And it helps with the fatigue cycle energy. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It helps with processing the energy systems in your body, meaning when it gets broken down, the energy tends to. Let me look it up just to make sure I'm not getting it in there. But what were your experiences on the beta alanine?
Uh,
You took it once, all right?
I took it once to see what it was like, and you were there. You were you were my spotter. I felt like the super soldier.
Right? It's crazy.
I felt like you got the tingly skin first of all, which was weird. I didn't feel like it enhanced my ability to lift more, for instance. I actually felt that its advantages were basically not there for any anaerobic exercise of sorts. So, like, in other words, it didn't help with the squat. It didn't really help with the bench press. It didn't even help with pull-ups, really. Um, but the one thing where it did work is more endurance-based things. So any core exercises, I remember planks, I could like sit it out forever. It just slowed down that process of not lactic acid. It's what everyone confuses as lactic acid. I should know this. But yeah, it slowed down that whole process of fatiguing. I remember.
Yeah, it says shown to increase the concentration of carnosine muscles, decrease fatigue in athletes, and increase total muscular work done.
Yeah, like I said, it's not like the effects that people describe when they are on creatine, or even like in more extreme circumstances when people describe what they feel on anabolic steroids. Like, it wasn't anything like that. Like the ability to like add another 2 plates to each side of your bench press and do it. It was more. I just didn't get tired as quickly. And from an endurance standpoint, it's basically like speed, what you would think if you had speed, before you just start jump roping.
Yeah, it was pretty much endurance for me. I guess it would definitely help with recovery because I didn't have to stop so much in time. So I think it would be good on a hypertrophy day. You can just go in and wreck it. So then I'm thinking, okay, does the body make?
I don't trust it. That's all I can say at the end of it.
So basically, they said to keep beta alanine levels in your body high, just eat meat: poultry, beef, fish, pork.
Right.
Obviously, I don't get the tingling feeling, and I'm like, you know what? And again, you'll see a pattern in all this stuff that I'm going to talk about. But let's say you just eat enough, and you might not be fatigued to go to the point where you need a pre-workout. So my theory is, you'll notice a lot of this stuff is going to be similar. So let's say the second best ingredient is creatine nitrate. Creatine also helps with fatigue. It enters into the energy cycles of your body. So again, you don't get as tired, and you can recover faster.
Well, it's one of the I don't want to butcher this, but something I've been studying a lot lately for the current certification is that the more the longer chemical name of creatine, I can't remember what it's called. It's in your body, and your body wants to basically use it as energy, or it's what sort of depletes the fastest when you're under like extreme muscle contraction. So by supplementing creatine, you're delaying that process. So in other words, it's a very similar feeling, I think, in effect to beta alanine, but it plays on what is thought to be a more traditionally natural process. Whereas I feel like beta alanine still has a lot of holes in it. When you read the research, it just, to me, it just is kind of negligent of like long-term effects, obviously because we don't know.
Yeah, the one that I got a pretty good handle on it, and I actually, to be honest with you, feel a little bit more confident with it, but there was no long-term.
That's how I feel about creatine, but I've never taken it, and I'm still afraid to take it,
Yeah.
I gotta be honest.
I've taken it once, and it was a long time ago before it was like super known, and not be super known, but not as known as it is now. And it was, my recovery was awesome. I felt stronger, but I was retaining a lot of water, so I feel like I got fatter on the midsection, but it was just water weight.
Yeah, a
So,
lot of people say that, especially because you have to take it basically to kind of protect your liver and your kidneys. I mean, that's the danger. And it's weird
although
because
that's been proved. I mean, I don't know if it's misinformation, but in researching this, they said that this is not a fact. This is not true that about the protecting liver and kidneys. And it's a
well,
certain type of creatine that you have to watch out for. And
right. Now that's actually kind of correct because in textbooks, much like a lot of the ones I'm reading now, they actually say that as well. That it's kind of not a myth, but it's not it wasn't as founded as others as situations as they would let you believe. But they did say though that because of what it's doing and because of the of the process's similarity to a lot of your liver function. God, I feel like a Momo today, as Joey Diaz would say. But in other words, it has a lot of the processes involve your kidneys, it involves your liver. So they said in anything it would be prudent to exercise caution. Not that it's ever happened. They just said that if anyone who knows anything about the body would tell you that you're starting to get in the territory of your liver and kidneys, you would probably want to take caution, even though nothing has ever happened, you know?
well, let me give you a couple points. A couple of research places that I said, okay, in order to have creatine in your body, you need to eat a lot of meat or a lot of fish. But it would need to be raw to be able to get the benefits of the most creatine in there. Because most of creatine burns off when you cook it.
Interesting.
So, 500 grams of raw meat or fish. 1 pound of beef contains 5 grams of creatine. But if you think about what you're saying and theoretically how to tie it all in, is like, so say you can jam the equivalent of all this raw meat into your system in one shot, and you can do that with creatine, the powder form, right?
Right.
Yeah, that would definitely tax your liver and your kidneys because it still has to go through your body. So
Right.
you're not eating it in raw carnage form, then
Right.
you're basically mainlining it into your liver and your kidneys in a powdered water form.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that even just on a theoretical level, jacking you up.
Right, exactly. And
Like
that's kind of what
like mainlining a Big Mac. Like here we go, arteries. Psha! You know what I mean?
right. And it's like I said, it's the analogy also would be, kind of what I was saying too of like, yeah, if you're riding a bike without a helmet, it doesn't mean when you fall that you're going to hit your head. It just means that you could, and you might want to wear a helmet.
So again, that's two things where it's like beta alanine, eat meat, or poultry, beef, chicken, whatever. Creatine, eat meat. Uh, the next thing was arginine AKG, which is
Now,
basically a salt and arginine acid. Arginine is actually kind of cool. I suggest people do research on arginine. It's
well,
pretty cool.
it's an amino acid, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool amino acid, and it's basically responsible for, and it does a lot of other things, but it's the blood flow, the pump, the boosting of your hormones, and the growing faster of the muscle, theoretically.
Well, hearkening back to an old podcast, I don't know if we discussed it on there, but arginine is often paired with BCAAs when people take it.
Oh, nice. I actually was looking at the arginine and the AKG, and I would actually supplement with that, but buying it on its own. And again,
Right.
everybody do your own due diligence. Start researching arginine, AKG. And I actually looked like one of the things that if I were going to make my own supplement, I would put that, I would have that, or some form of arginine or arginine AKG because the salt, because it's AKG, it's mixed with the salt, and it's easily absorbed by the body better.
Right.
In order to get more AKG, guess what? You have to eat, arginine, you have to eat beef, chickpeas, dairy, granola, nuts, pork, poultry, seafood, and seeds. So basically, other than the dairy and the granola, just have a good diet. To have all this stuff readily available in your body, have a good diet. And then the last thing is caffeine. Duh. You know what I mean? That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, to me it almost seems like you wouldn't need the caffeine with the beta alanine in there.
Yeah, I think the caffeine is more okay. So somebody got a free True Athlete, Vitamin Shop True Athlete. Their stuff, again, we've talked about their stuff. It's pretty clean. So we found a pre-workout, and somebody used it there, and it's a True Athlete. It's pretty clean. It has a lot of good stuff. It doesn't have too much. It has about each scoop. If you do the 3 scoops, it has about cup and a half of coffee worth, which I don't think is too bad. It has beta-alanine and a couple other things. Um, but it was actually a clean one, and so I was like, if I had to do a pre-workout, I'd probably do that one. But it wasn't like overly aggressive, like hardcore, because true athletes pretty good about keeping their stuff clean, like we've talked about before. But one of the guys, no, it doesn't give me that. It's okay. It doesn't give me that crazy rush that like C4 gives you. And I'm like, well, that's because it has more caffeine in it, or has this other stuff in there that gives you that super crazy pump. Where so people basically just they don't feel like working out, and they're like, no, I need something that makes me want to work out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a young blood syndrome. That's
Or it's actually even worse. It's like I have no choice, and I've seen this. I have no choice but to work out. Because I took this, I have no choice but to work out, or else it's gonna be wasted.
Oh yeah, that's a strange.
It's like a gun to your head to work out, a shotgun workout.
Right.
Shit, I took my pre-workout, I have to go work out. That type of logic, which is utterly setting your body up for failure. Because then you don't even know what to work out, how to work out. You know, it's just more like a prisoner. Oh, it's time to go out and do my walk to camp today, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, the big point I want to make is tying it back to what I said in the beginning is if you just eat properly, get water, you know, nourish yourself, sleep, drink water, you'll never have, my theory is you'll never have those days where you're like, I don't feel like working out today. I'm going to take this pre-workout then, and I'm going to have to work out today, you know?
Right. Or if you do all that stuff you're saying too, you know when you're not supposed to work out because it'll be a planned day of rest, or you'll be like, oh, I'm tired because I just did jujitsu, you know, or I'm tired because I just did this.
Yeah. You'll be more in tune with your body, and your body's like, look, dude, today's a day of rest. I'm shutting you down. They're like, no, dude, Mr. Pre-Workout says you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, have that little conversation with yourself. But if you create the environment as a challenge, create the environment where you don't need a pre-workout. If you want to be a little bit weird about it, and then be like, okay, what's in my pre-workout? Okay, caffeine. Okay, how about I just sleep? So I don't need caffeine. Beta-alanine, creatine. Okay, I'll have a week, 2 weeks where I eat clean, grass-fed, organic beef. You know, all that good stuff. Take care of my body. Drink a lot of water. I would love to see results. You're never gonna get that like, you know, jump through a wall, pre-workout, energy smash. But you know what? I don't think anybody's supposed to have that, you know? Aren't you really psyching yourself out with that then? You know, it's a crutch.
Well, yes and yeah, I agree with you, and philosophically, yes. But I can say the meathead in me, though, you like to kind of sometimes you need to get jacked up. Like in other words, whether that means focus or that means an intense focus through excitement.
Wait, so you're Ray Lewis. You need that bullshit that he does before a game.
Some people do.
Okay, let's look historically at like. Okay, I could probably believe like Braveheart or like the Maori tribe that try to intimidate people. You know, with their chant and everything before a battle or something like that.
Right.
Is that what this is all hearkening to? And if that's the real need for it, then my argument is even stronger, because that means that taking a powder to be able to do that is bullshit, because these guys were naturally psyching themselves out.
Yeah, exactly.
They found a way to, all right, we're going to do this, whether it's through a breathing exercise or a yelling exercise or they did it. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. So maybe they took a potion or something that that we don't know about. But I don't know, man. I've always been a lunch pail kind of guy, where like if I have to do a workout, I'm just, all right, you know what? I'm doing a workout. I'm putting down a lunch pail. I'm getting my workout in, and then afterwards I'm done. You know?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is kind of unique to me and maybe you and people who enjoy this stuff, but you know, that you kind of made my point too, is that psyched up, psyched upness or whatever you want to call it. I kind of get it naturally from just, being excited to go move my body and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, that if it's a deadlift day, Monday morning, I look forward to Monday morning because that's deadlift day, and I wake up excited. There are other times though where I'm not as excited, and I think some other people get that too. I mean, the more you kind of work out, and the more you kind of, I would even argue that a lot of the bodybuilder types or the gym rat types who just kind of live for the gym, uh, they have displayed a tremendous amount of consistency and dedication, and in the best cases, to showing up and breaking personal records, and looking to always improve. Uh,
Yeah,
in the gym, I'm talking solely in the gym. I'm not talking about nutrition, sleep, any of that. Just talking about
yeah.
in the gym. And some of these people might be people who would use these supplements and whatnot. And just by doing that and that consistency, you get a little. Sometimes you need that spice up. You need that. In other words, if you're working out and you're like, oh, today I got to do bench press and I hate bench press, like you do start to develop biases after you've done them enough. So I understand why some people might quick turn for the supplement, because it's like, oh, it's bench press day. I hate bench press day. It gets in my head. Let me just blow through it. So I'm going to take blank pre-workout, and I'm going to take my concrete, and I'm going to be able to blast through it, and it kind of breaks up that monotony. But the more important question is like, why are you doing the bench press if you hate it so much? Is there a benefit you're getting? Okay, if there is, then let's vary up the day a little bit. Let's maybe figure out a variation on it, something more interesting. Like, there's always those questions you can ask yourself.
I think if the bulk of your workout week relies on something like that, or every workout,
Yeah.
you're kind of missing. You're missing the point of working out. Like,
Right.
how do you know that once you get that, like, second, first set warm up set, second, first real set? Usually that's when I get my workout, my psyched upness is like, once I feel that first set, I get in, I'm like, all right, that's good. Like, let's do this. Here's the pain threshold. How can I train this pain threshold mentally? That's usually what. Either I'll wither and just say I'm not feeling it, or push through.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's I agree, because that's it for me too, because I was trying to put myself in the converse of that for a minute, that there's some mornings where you just don't have, like, there's two instances. Like this morning, for instance, at the gym, I had to do my bench press, speak of the devil, and I just don't like the bench press. I never have. And I there's two things that can happen. One is that I just it's hard to get myself into it. It's hard to get myself warmed up, that central nervous system going. And then there's the other thing. Like today, I was just actually tired. I shouldn't have been there, and that was what I recognized when I was having trouble doing my 70% kind of lift. I was like, you know what, I gotta go. This isn't working, because I shouldn't be struggling with this. So I went home. I went home and foam rolled. So that's the two ends. I couldn't psych myself up because I physically could not. But in other instances, it's like a mental thing. It's like it's hard to get going sometimes, and I understand why people reach for the pre-workout. I wouldn't. I'm not the type to, but I understand it.
I think I'm like, one of the reasons why I brought it up, and it obviously came to light because we were having a discussion at work about it and everything. But I think what you and I talk about is like, sometimes we're ahead of the curve, sometimes we're on the curve, sometimes we're way out there. But I think timing is everything. Like, all this Fitbit, all this like self-information, all this new stuff is leading to like a new age of where people are learning about the gut, the immunity, that people are learning about sleep, people are learning about hydrate, all the stuff that's old school. What's old is new again. And I think this type of stuff, like 10 years, 5 years from now, pre-workout's going to be like the devil. You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff.
Right.
I just think that people are learning that this can't be good for me, or people are like drinking less coffee, we're going to be learning about the dangers of caffeine. I think with the internet and with information the way it is, all that misinformation is like shit now. I think it's going to start turning into crap because people can't hold truth. Like some guy, yeah, coffee this, coffee that, boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? It's a domino effect to get coffee off the board. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, look how popular coffee with butter and it didn't exist 3 years ago. You know what
Yeah,
I
it's
mean?
getting so popular now. People are someone brought up bulletproof coffee to me in Maine for Christ's sake.
Yeah, this shit did not exist. I don't think it existed 3 years ago. Maybe it did, but
Well,
now it's
Rob Wolf is quite credited as the creator of
yeah.
it.
Maybe
Yeah.
he did, but the marketing goes to Mr. Esprey. I'll give him that.
Oh yeah, definitely, without a
And
doubt.
it worked on me for a while, and I haven't had that in like 3 or 4 months. And that was after mainlining it. I was using it as a crutch. That was my pre-workout. I was using it as an intermittent fast crutch, but it was killing me adrenally.
Yeah, yeah.
I got down on a good, nice tea that works best for me. And again, I'm not saying this for everybody. There's people that need caffeine. Like I know people very close to me that I'm highly stimulated, highly overstimulated. There's people that are not stimulated at all. They need 2 cups of coffee a day. Like they just do. I've seen research on it. They said it's fine if you're one of those people that's on the low stimulation scale. They need that caffeine to be stimulated.
Right.
So I
And
don't.
that's probably very rare amongst us too. Those
It's
people.
possible. It's possible. It's a body type and a personality type. So I
Yeah.
don't. So I mean, I would say the percentage of people that should be on pre-workout is way smaller than the numbers of that it sells. You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah, the marketing was great on that.
Don't feel like working out? Take this. I didn't know. Yeah, 5 Hour Energy, Red Bull, all that stuff is just expanded on there. It's basically the Red Bull of pre-workout, or the I don't know. I think we just seem to have these sources that aren't good enough. You know, you need the pump, you need this, you need that, you need that. And I was like, But now researching beta alanine, I would recommend it to my clients who are vegetarians that want to get muscle. Research on your own, because what I read says, it's a way to cheat the system. You're getting some of that meat-eating chemicals in your body, even though they're not eating meat, which is good for that.
Right, right. That's an interesting take on it. I wouldn't have thought of that, but it actually kind of makes sense. Yeah.
It was actually interesting, and it said it doesn't matter it doesn't matter how much you take it. It matters when you take it consistently for beta alanine to work best. So like a little bit every day.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
But again, that could have been the people who make it. I'm like, hey, I take a little bit of this every day.
Yeah, I always think about that too, because one supplement I do like and I'm a fan of is ZMA, and the packaging tells you to, it arbitrarily for men to take 3 per day or before you go to bed at night. And I have to say, after doing 1, 2, and 3, I have the best results with 2. So it's
Yeah, and I do with 3, but I've done it on 2 before to save money.
yeah, yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like they recommend 3, of course, because they have an interest in you getting through that bottle faster.
Yeah, that's a sweet thing, man. Like, there's one person who made the beta alanine. They made the one process of getting beta alanine. They're paid like crazy.
Yeah, same with probably even more so than Victor Conti with his ZMA.
ZMA is pretty dope too, but yeah, beta alanine's in everything right now. So
yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Start thinking about the things. Basically, simple. Start thinking about the things you put in your body and do to your body. And if you can't recreate them naturally with 2 weeks of like eating right and sleeping right and drinking enough water, then something's off. And the age is coming where we're getting information from individuals. You can go on Reddit and read about people's experiences with beta alanine or Cell-U Core, C4. Very rare. You can sniff out the marketing people or the bullshit, and you got to kind of figure out. The tide is turning in the favor of people who are more aware of what's going on physically and not. It's shifting from corporations telling you, or big institutions telling you this versus no, I kind of feel this is better for me. So
Right.
kind of start being a little bit more aware of all the information that you're using, and you have podcasts to listen to people talk about their own ideas and understandings of the world. You don't have to buy the big packaged idea for your life. You don't have to go to college anymore. You don't have to sit in an office for 12 hours for the next 40 years of your life. You don't have to do that stuff anymore. Some people do, and some people are fine with that, and some people have a good life and raise a good family, and there's nothing wrong with that. But start carving out a couple of those hours for yourself. I guarantee you nothing will fall apart.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's actually good advice. I tell that to a lot of people. I say to them, 15 minutes. Take 15 minutes, or know when to leave. That's the thing. That's the perspective I kind of have gotten from, being in the world where people are working 9 to 5 is like, coming into it knowing all I know. Like I just am so much more apt to be like, yeah, it's time to call it quits, guys. Let's go. It's
Yeah.
done. It's over. Like, and I would have never have used to have that perspective, and
Diminishing returns. Nobody ever pays attention to that.
what's that?
Diminishing returns. Like, yeah, you can stay for.
So friggin' lutely. You're
You're
really
not gonna get the quality of like the work that you're gonna get.
absolutely, absolutely. That's extremely true. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think, my personal opinion is all that comes from, these tech companies where you have these guys, especially back in the 90s, these people who just love computers and love programming. It's just like staying up all night doing something you loved. But it just happened to be for a multi-million-dollar company. And, you know, the outside world of non-tech people saw how the time that these tech guys were putting into their work, and they're like, well, why can't my employees do it? And it's like, well, because you're a friggin' bank. That's why. No one wants to sit at a bank until 2 in the morning.
Then they
That,
gave video games and laundry and dry cleaning and cafeteria, all that stuff to kind of stay at work and stay there for life. But
yeah,
yeah, we're in interesting times right now, man. It's like the change, everything's occurring at this time, and I know it's kind of cliche to say that, but I don't know. It's interesting. I can see it as just from having Twitter and people following us, and then me researching what they do and how do they make their money and what do they have on their Twitter, and it's like, why did you follow us? Like, oh, because I tweeted something about this. Like, it's a weird net that's just, I know, no pun intended. It's a weird intermingling of ideas and thoughts and viralness and timing and consciousness that's all coming out together in one possible chord, and it could hit like crazy, and you never really know.
right. Yeah, what's funny is that, this to kind of extrapolate that. I don't know if you read, but WikiLeaks says that they're going to leak the name in the next 72 hours. They're going to leak the name of the country that the U.S. has been spying on, and with the NSA and recording all their phone calls, emails, and everything. That there's a nation in particular that we breached, basically, and WikiLeaks knows who it is, knows the perpetrator, and they're going to release the name. And Glenn Greenwald, are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
He's basically been tweeting them, and they've opened a very public dialogue with each other, WikiLeaks and Glenn Greenwald, and he's saying, I really don't think you guys should do that. People probably will die if you do that. That there's a lot of death involved. There's a lot of whatever. And I know I'm taking this down a serious road, but I do that to kind of, like I said, it's like a bigger picture of your point, is that we live in this really strange world now where like all the information is out there, and that we all kind of have something on one another. That the privacy becomes less and less. But by a similar token, you can also be the master of your own destiny more and more, or there is no gatekeeper. You get to choose what you want to consume for the most part.
I agree.
And this whole WikiLeaks thing really made me think today that Glenn Greenwald has a very good point. It's probably very dangerous for them to do that. However, in the way we're moving, knowing what we do about the internet and everything you just said, everything I just said, it's almost as if this has to happen because everyone has to realize there are no secrets anymore, because then the government is going to be less able to hide things like this. So it will almost call for more accountability on their part. That, in other words, they have to realize that there's risks to doing this, and that they could always be publicly outed, and they have to approach any serious problems or serious matters with extreme caution, because it's just all out there. And that's almost like the new world balance, that like our old world balance was like, we can keep these things a secret. You know what I mean? That we're all kind of doing this secret stuff, so whatever. But now it's like, well, we're going to find out about it sooner or later. So if you're not okay with that, you probably shouldn't do it. But if you are okay with it, that's a different story. And
No, I agree. It's definitely growing pains. It's all growing pains because nobody can be definite about like
right. It's
what's
kind
going
of
to die.
right.
Happen. Yeah.
It's kind of like that Rogan podcast a while ago with it was either like Cara Santa Maria or Anna Kasparian, one of the two of them, and they said that eventually it'll be like everyone has each other's dick pics, and they're like they're not going to release it because they know that they have that person, so they can always blackmail them. Like in other words, we all have embarrassing pictures, and they're not gone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that. It's almost like that has to happen. We all have to realize like we're all spying on each other. No one's safe.
Yeah.
Whatever that before people will be like, oh, okay, well, and maybe we got to think about this differently. And the reason I say all that is because, like I said, it goes to show you that you are not chained or shackled to the way things used to be. That, like Troy said, you can choose to listen to a podcast. You can choose to do a lot. You have a lot of control.
It's all you can eat. You can do what you want, and in that you can communicate with people. So take advantage of those resources.
Absolutely.
Hit us up on Twitter to do that.
Yeah, Freud, the keeper of Twitter. Oh yeah, a note of technology and getting a hold of us. Our website. When you leave a comment on a video, happy to answer any of your questions and comment with you like we often do when people do. But I will say we get so much spam on the blog and the website that sometimes the real messages get lost in there, and I'm sorry if we miss them, but we do appreciate them. The best way to get in contact with us is obviously Twitter and email, but if you're going to leave a comment, we totally welcome it. But like I said, there is a chance I could miss it, and not on purpose. Totally sorry about that.
Did you find one that we missed?
Yeah, someone apparently said like, "Hey, I really like this. I posted this on my blog," but they did it like months ago, but it was buried in spam.
Oh, buried in spam.
Yeah, and I was just like, I was like clearing out spam on the website, and
Yeah.
I was just like, oh god, there was actually a serious comment in here. So
Yeah. It could have been a bot still. You never know.
yeah, who knows? Who knows? But that's how you should get a hold of us. Functionalmeatheads@gmail.com.
What's our Facebook? Do we have a Facebook?
We do. It's facebook.com/functionalmeatheads. I'm very bad about updating it because I just don't use Facebook very much. I'm not as big of a fan of it as I am like Twitter and Instagram.
Snapchat us.
Yes, exactly. Snapchat us. Don't send us your dick pics, please.
Send us only.
Yes, exactly. Send those to Froy.
No. Fun Meatheads at Twitter, right?
Yeah, fun meatheads, yeah.
Lame. Why couldn't we get functional meatheads? Too many characters?
There's too many characters, yeah.
Lame.
And I didn't want to do one of those. Remember, you and I were sitting there creating it. We didn't want to do one of those like only consonants, so it's like FNCTNL meatheads.
No.
That's too weird. Who's gonna type that in? Fun meatheads.
Fun meat. We are fun meat.
Right, exactly. It's very fun. So
yeah.
that is us, and we thank you for listening for another week. We will return next week. Stay away from the concrete.
Yeah, no pre-workout this week, dude. See how awesome your workouts are.
Yes, indeed. Take care, everyone. It is time for the woo-off.
Watch regular show.
Indeed.
Indeed.